Welcome, everyone. I am going to invite an elder and a child to open this solstice service.
Fire is burning, a long night draws near. All who need comfort are welcome by here. We'll dance 'neath the stars and toast the last year, for the spirit of solstice is still living here. We'll count all our blessings while the mother lays down, with snow as her blanket covering the ground. Thanks to the mother for the light that she brings, we'll waken to warm us again in the spring. Ooh, ooh, Fire is burning, the long night draws near. All who need comfort are welcome by here. We'll dance 'neath the stars and toast the past year, for the spirit of solstice is still living here. For the spirit of solstice is still living here. For the spirit of solstice is still living here.
Well, I'm glad you came out on this special night. The shortest day of the year, but the return of the light is almost here. And our symbolism is that in the old year, there is wisdom and experience, and the new can gain from that and also bring their freshness, their twirly skirts, their golden slippers, and their excitement for all that's new. So the candle is lit in that spirit. Many of you pass through 3 gateways. The first gateway asks you, and what is it that you need to forgive to enter the new year freshly? The second gate was, and who would you bless as you enter this new year? And the last question was, and what word would you carry in your heart into the new year that will keep you true? So we'll work with that a little bit later in the service. But right now, I'd just like to offer a solstice prayer. Even in the darkest hour, there is an internal light that glows. And when we turn inward, that illumination, even if it's only the barest flicker, grows with our attention and our mindfulness. Tonight, we've brought ourselves here in the dark to celebrate the light returning. And just as solstice stands for the world stopping, we stop now in this quiet place with beautiful music and messages of hope, to nourish ourselves in the dark and welcome and celebrate the light. I'm grateful for our time together, and so it is.
If
if you feel able and you want to sing with us and stand and call in this service together, we're going to sing We Shall Be Known.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
We shall be known.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the way. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
One more time from the top.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
Oh, our youth. Well, so the message tonight. Certainly, this is a time in our world where we have choices to be made, where things are changing and turning, and in ways that sometimes we can't even anticipate. There's a mystery about it all. And so on this night, where the dark is deep, what we can do is turn within and look deeply at our own selves and the work that we can do to enter into the light clearly, purposefully, mindfully. And so the first question that you were asked was, who and what must you forgive? And for me, this question has to do with moving very purposefully in my life and understanding what forgiveness actually entails. So I brought you a short story. It's called Already There. For many years, John would come and stand in front of the gate marked, "This way to forgiveness." It was a large wrought iron gate in an electrified fence. Both gate and fence were marked with large, ominous signs that warned danger, high voltage. But John kept coming back. He could see through the gate into a paradise of green forests, cascading streams, and fertile fields. The sight of such nurture and luxury just out of reach made life on his side of the gate more and more miserable. He looked around at the wilderness on his side and felt a deep despair at the parched, barren landscape. He longed to get across the fence, through the gate, somehow to gain entrance to the paradise beyond. Finally, one day, he realized that he would rather be dead than continue to live with such torment. Taking a deep breath, he reached out and he pushed against the electrified bars of the gate. It swung open. No shock, no searing current charring his body. It opened easily. He stood transfixed for a moment and then slowly walked through the open gate into the welcoming fields. The warm sun fell on his face, and the gentle breeze soothed the warmth just enough. Delicious smells drifted into his nose, and his eyes took in a land even more beautiful than what he had seen through the gate. Sighing in relief, he turned to look back at the wilderness from which he had escaped and saw nothing but the same beautiful countryside as far as the eye could see. No fence, no gate, no wilderness. So, of course, the problem with forgiveness is that even when we're told that it's not about the other person, how many of you have heard that? It's not about the other person, it's about you. It's like, you're holding on to this hatred or this lack of forgiveness is like having a hot coal and swallowing it and thinking it's going to harm the other person. Anybody hear that one? Or rat poison, or there's so many analogies. And it's absolutely true, of course. It isn't about the other person. The other person, really annoyingly, is happily going about their life unaware of the hatred being beamed at them any and every time we see them or think about them. And so how do we then escape the bars, the fenced-in feeling? How do we actually activate forgiveness? I don't think we have to wait until we're in absolute torment to find the way. But I do think that we have to find in ourselves how to work with the situation that caused the problem in a way that's actually legitimately true for us. And this takes some examination, some sense of personal capability. And it also, kind of hard to say, but it takes responsibility. Not responsible for perhaps the harm that came your way, but responsible for how you work with it and how you and I allow that to either fester and become more and more and more of a focus, or we let it go. I actually heard a story on NPR today as I was driving around delivering packages about a woman who had been given the opportunity to open with the band Weezer. And her ukulele that she was supposed to be playing was not tuned correctly. And so when they began, it was awful. And so the lead singer said, just put the ukulele behind you and just sing. Well, her friend, who was also someone that sang with her in other gigs, was in the audience and was absolutely crushed because it felt like this opportunity that might have launched their career was ruined because of this awful ukulele mishap. For 14 years, this friend watched the clip of that over and over and over, because it did change the way their playing together happened. It sort of petered out, and the one that was on stage went on to be a life coach and do all kinds of journeys with people and still played. But, you know, this friend was locked into what could I have done? Maybe I was the one that told her the wrong keys. Maybe. 14 years. And that sounds outrageous, but I bet you some of us here in this audience have been working with things for a long time. So what this woman did is she finally called the person on stage and said, hey, haven't talked to you for a while, and I just had this question. I was wondering, do you feel real bad about what happened those years ago? And the woman went, what do you mean? And she said, well, when things didn't go right on stage with Weezer. And the woman went, oh, no, I don't feel bad about that at all. I thought they were so kind. They actually, sort of saved the day by saying, okay, just sing. And it was beautiful. And the friend was like, it was beautiful? And the woman said, yeah. Why are you bringing it up? She said, well, I've just been thinking about it on and off. And the one said, oh, yeah, it was great. It was really great. And I was so appreciative of how kind they were to me. And they hung up. And it was like, the woman said, 14 years I've been doing this perseveration on what's my part and how awful and it's so maybe I got to hear that story because I knew I was talking about forgiveness. And I knew that, I'm a long forgiver. It takes me a long time, not 14 years, but long. And it's gotten shorter and shorter and shorter the more I realize that I had a part in that in some way, that it was not all just this evil other, but there was something in me that was designed to work with whatever that situation is, even the worst ones. So forgiveness, especially forgiveness for self, because of course we're hardest on ourselves, right? What did I do? What could I have done to change the situation? Why couldn't I have, or should I have, or the friend, right? So the second gate was the gate of, and who would you bless in the new year? And blessing has kind of gone out of the culture. Not my culture. I'm doing a lot of blessing these days. But it's such an ancient practice. And it is so powerful, but it is so hidden. And so I didn't know if you've thought about blessing. But, of course, the master blesser is John O'Donohue. And if you haven't read his book on blessings called Benedictus, it's full of these enchanting blessings for different things that are happening in people's lives, for someone who has passed, for someone getting married, for someone buying their first home, for someone retiring, for someone journeying, all of that. And so who would you bless? Knowing that the power of your light held in the form of a blessing actually has a spiritual energy that can reach across everywhere and actually touch the one that you're holding in mind. Will you know how that affects them? No. Will it affect them? Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's a very potent thing. And so blessings have a couple pieces. The first is to really get an image of the person in mind. And then once you have that, we begin to ask ourselves what would be of most benefit to this person. In the Tibetan tradition, this is the Taglen practice of figuring out what would be of greatest benefit and then sending the blessing of literally sending that to them. So often in my own life, I'm aware that there are people all over the world right now in all different situations that are in need. There are people in Ukraine and Russia. There are people in Israel and Lebanon and Palestine. There are people in the rainforests of Brazil. There are people in the deserts in Senegal and other places. And each and every one of them is in a position where a blessing would actually lift the heart that's working so diligently to try to survive, to try to continue love, to try to be a force for good in the world. And so I do a prayer called the Bodhisattva prayer, where I know that wherever these people are, anything they need is being provided, is being brought forward, is being given to them, whether it's an idea, money, supplies, the spirit of hope. I don't know. I just know that in the blessing, this is how I see them in towns and villages, in forests, in deserts, everywhere. And allowing that to be my blessing and doing it on a regular basis does something to me. You know, it's like what you give comes back. And so the blessing that I send out then seems to open me up even more to receiving the beauty of this world and the beauty of other people. The last question you were given is, and what word would you carry in your heart? Which is a weird way to say it, right? What word would you carry in your heart? Because usually we carry our words in our head, right? But carrying it in the heart, meaning on this night, that you have the opportunity to decide for yourself a way to enter into the growing light clear, really true to yourself. And sometimes all it takes is a word that's meaningful for you, a word that you can literally hold on to. You can, when you're in a difficult situation, remind yourself, this is who I am. This word stands for my truth, who I am, who I intend to be as the light grows more strongly in the world. And carrying that in your heart means you literally lead with it, so that there's an intentionality about living that comes from clearing in forgiveness, blessing, and then becoming very clear about how I want to be, how you want to be, how we want to be together. And in this way, we change. We change ourselves, and then changes begin to happen at a more and more global level, first in our small circle, and then it expands and expands and expands. And I know it's very subtle, and I know sometimes we look around and we think, well, it's so subtle, I don't see a thing. And yet, the truth of the matter is, it really does make a difference. Imagine if none of us were doing that. The world would indeed be dark. So we have the opportunity to be the light, to be that place that stands for what is good and what is true, and to bless. And in that way, things change. And I'm grateful for the efforts that you make to do just that. Right now, I'm going to invite the ushers to come forward with an offertory. Many of you probably did not come prepared to give money to this center, but we appreciate anything that you can give, and we just want you to feel welcome.
May you know in your bones that this earth is your home. May you feel in your soul you are worthy and whole. May you know in your bones that this earth is your home. May you feel that you belong. May you know in your bones that this earth is your home. May you feel in your soul you are worthy and whole. May you know in your bones that this earth is your home. May you feel that you belong.
May I know in my bones,
May I know in my bones that this earth is my home. May I feel in my soul I am worthy and whole. May I know in my bones that this earth is my home. May I feel that I belong. May I know in my bones that this earth is my home. May I feel in my soul I am worthy and whole. May I know in my bones that this earth is my home. May I feel that I belong.
may I feel.
May I feel that I belong.
I love that. All right. So, a poem by Susan Cooper called The Shortest Day. So the shortest day came, and the year died, and everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing, dancing, to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight. This shortest day, as promise wakens in the sleeping land, they carol, feast, and give thanks, and dearly love their friends, and hope for peace. And so do we, here and now, this year and every year. Welcome, Yule. So the ritual tonight, you've been immersed in questions, and now we're going to share the light. And once we've shared the light, there'll be a song, a blessing, and then we're going to invite you out to the fire that's burning to enjoy that. And I hope you do dance, and I hope you do sing in this night of nights. And so I will ask one of the ushers, Janet, may I have a candle? I forgot to get one. Oh, thank you, Lynn. There we go. Would you stand?
In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. Shining, shining, a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. Shining, shining, a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. Shining, shining, a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. Shining, shining, a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. Shining, shining, a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. Shining, shining, a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends. In the center of the center, there's a light that never ends. Shining from the center, a light that never ends.
And so, with the light passed from hand to hand and heart to heart, I send this blessing out into the world to anyone who is struggling, to anyone who is frightened, to anyone who needs to know they belong. I take the knowing that they too carry light, and I send it with all my heart, with the light of my own being, knowing that as I bless them, they are lifted, held in a love that knows no limit and has no limit. And so it is. Okay, candles up. Happy solstice. Feel free to exit the side doors or go around and enjoy the fire. There's a basket over there.
Light is returning, even though this is the darkest hour. No one can hold back the dawn. Let's keep it burning. Let's keep the light of hope alive. Make safe our journey through the storm. One planet is turning, circle around her path around the sun. Earth Mother is calling her children home. Light is returning, even though this is the darkest hour. No one can hold back the dawn. Let's keep it burning. Let's keep the light of hope alive. Make safe our journey through the storm. One planet is turning, circle around her path around the sun. Her mother is calling her children home. Light is returning, even though this is the darkest hour. No one can hold back the dawn. Let's keep it burning. Let's keep the light of hope alive. Make safe our journey through the storm. Our planet is turning, circle around her path around the sun. Earth Mother is calling her children home. Earth Mother is calling her children home. Light is returning, even though this is the darkest hour. No one can hold back the dawn. Happy solstice, everyone. Enjoy the fires. We'll see you again soon.